The gavel fell, a sound that echoed far beyond the courtroom walls, signaling the end of a legal battle that had captivated the nation. The courtroom held its breath, anticipating the verdict that would either confirm or deny the accusations leveled against Sean Diddy Combs. The weight of the evidence, the arguments presented, and the testimonies given all culminated in this single decisive moment. Sean Diddy Combs was found not guilty, a verdict that reverberated through the legal system and the entertainment industry alike. The relief on Combs' face was palpable, a stark contrast to the tension that had gripped him throughout the trial. Ending one of the most high-profile trials of the decade. The media frenzy surrounding the case had been relentless, with every development dissected and debated across news outlets and social media platforms. The courthouse steps had become a stage for public opinion, with protesters and supporters alike vying for attention. The verdict shocked the entertainment world, sending shockwaves through an industry already grappling with issues of power, abuse, and accountability. Many within the industry had quietly distanced themselves from Combs as the allegations mounted, unsure of how the legal proceedings would unfold. Upending months of headlines about power, abuse, and alleged criminality, the accusations had painted a disturbing picture, raising questions about the culture within the entertainment industry and the treatment of individuals within its orbit. Prosecutors had tried to paint Combs as a criminal mastermind under the RICO Act, arguing that he had orchestrated a pattern of illegal activity through his various business ventures. They presented evidence they claimed showed a deliberate and calculated effort to exploit and intimidate others, but the jury wasn't convinced. After days of deliberation, they reached a verdict that cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative. The jurors, tasked with weighing the evidence and applying the law, ultimately found the prosecution's case lacking. Combs' defense argued the case was built on unreliable testimony, pointing to inconsistencies and biases in the accounts of the witnesses who had come forward. They sought to discredit the prosecution's key witnesses, arguing that their motives were suspect and their recollections flawed. And government overreach, framing him as a target rather than a kingpin. The defense team argued that the government had unfairly targeted Combs, motivated by his wealth and fame, rather than concrete evidence of criminal wrongdoing. Legally, Combs walked free, able to return to his life and career without the threat of imprisonment hanging over him. The legal victory was a significant win for his defense team, who had worked tirelessly to clear his name. But the public had already absorbed months of disturbing allegations and leaked videos, forming opinions that were unlikely to be swayed by a legal verdict. Social media platforms had become battlegrounds for public opinion, with hashtags and trending topics amplifying the voices of both supporters and detractors. The acquittal didn't erase the stain on his reputation. The accusations had left an indelible mark, regardless of the legal outcome. The court of public opinion often operates independently of the legal system, and in this case, the damage had already been done. It only deepened the divide between legal innocence and public condemnation. The case highlighted the complex relationship between the justice system and public perception, demonstrating how a legal victory can still result in a significant loss of public trust. Combs is now legally absolved, free from the threat of criminal prosecution for the specific charges brought against him. The court records officially declare him not guilty, a legal determination that carries significant weight. But in the eyes of many, he remains a pariah. The allegations have tarnished his image, leading to a sense of social isolation and public rejection that may be difficult to overcome. This case forces us to confront the gap between what can be proven in court, where strict rules of evidence and legal standards apply, and what the public believes to be true, often based on incomplete information, emotional reactions, and pre-existing biases. The court of public opinion can be a powerful force, shaping reputations and influencing social norms even in the face of legal exoneration. In a move that underscored the gravity of the situation, the government decided to deploy its most formidable legal weapon. The stakes were incredibly high, and the choice of strategy would either lead to a resounding victory or a potentially devastating defeat. That weapon was the RICO Act, a law originally designed to dismantle organized crime syndicates and bring down powerful criminal empires. It was a tool typically reserved for the most serious and complex cases. The RICO Act works by connecting seemingly disparate criminal acts into a single overarching conspiracy. This allows prosecutors to paint a broader picture of criminal activity and target the individuals at the very top of the organization. In this case, prosecutors alleged that Combs' various businesses were not legitimate enterprises, but rather a sophisticated front for a sprawling criminal enterprise, carefully constructed to conceal illicit activities. The indictment was extensive, listing a series of predicate acts ranging from the heinous crime of sex trafficking to a complex web of financial crimes including money laundering and fraud, suggesting a deeply entrenched pattern of illegal behavior. To secure a conviction under RICO, the prosecution needed to prove not just that individual crimes had been committed, but that these acts were part of a coordinated pattern, deliberately orchestrated and controlled by Combs himself, demonstrating his direct involvement and leadership role. The decision to employ the RICO strategy immediately raised the stakes dramatically, transforming the case into a high-pressure all-or-nothing gamble for both sides. The trial quickly morphed into a full-blown media spectacle, attracting intense scrutiny from news outlets around the globe and captivating public attention. The intense media coverage and the severity of the charges placed immense pressure on both the prosecution and the defense teams, as every move was dissected and analyzed. A conviction under RICO would have been a landmark legal victory, setting a precedent and sending a clear message about accountability. But the risk of failure was just as great, potentially undermining the government's credibility and emboldening other potential offenders. The government's aggressive approach signaled that they viewed Combs not merely as a celebrity facing accusations, but as a criminal kingpin, but as the head of a sophisticated criminal organization, allegedly using his fame and influence to mask his illicit activities. However, the inherent complexity of RICO cases meant that proving the charges beyond a reasonable doubt would be an incredibly difficult task, requiring a mountain of evidence and a compelling narrative. Ultimately, the acquittal represented a major setback for federal prosecutors, raising questions about the strength of their case and the effectiveness of their strategy. The trial became a crucial test of the law's limits, highlighting the challenges of applying RICO to cases involving powerful and influential figures. It was a trial that tested the strength of the evidence and the boundaries of justice against one of the world's most famous men, leaving a lasting impact on the legal landscape. The prosecution's case, a meticulously constructed argument, relied on a web of witness testimony, each statement carefully extracted and presented to paint a specific picture. These weren't just casual observations, they were sworn accounts, meant to establish a pattern of behavior. Digital evidence extracted from countless devices and analyzed for incriminating details. Every email, every text message, every online transaction was scrutinized under a microscope. And financial records. Bank statements, investment portfolios, and property transactions were all laid bare, each one potentially holding a clue to the alleged illegal activities. The prosecution aimed to show a clear link between wealth and illicit behavior. Key witnesses, including former partner Cassie Ventura, described abuse and intimidation, offering first-hand accounts of the alleged misconduct. Their testimonies were crucial in establishing a pattern of behavior and creating a compelling narrative for the jury. While prosecutors presented texts, emails, and financial trails, meticulously piecing together a digital tapestry of communication and transactions. These digital breadcrumbs were intended to corroborate the witness testimonies and provide irrefutable proof. They claimed linked Combs to illegal acts. The prosecution asserted that these pieces of evidence, when viewed together, formed an undeniable chain connecting the defendant to the alleged crimes. The infamous hotel video showing Combs assaulting Ventura, a graphic and disturbing piece of evidence, became a centerpiece. It was a visual representation of the alleged abuse. A stark and undeniable image that the prosecution hoped would resonate deeply with the jury. Law enforcement experts tried to connect Combs to predicate acts like sex trafficking, meticulously analyzing the evidence to establish a clear link between the defendant and these serious crimes. Using travel logs and phone records to trace movements and communications, hoping to uncover a network of illicit activity. These records were scrutinized for patterns and connections that could support the prosecution's claims. Former associates who took plea deals testified, offering insider perspectives on the alleged criminal enterprise, hoping to reveal the inner workings of the organization. Hoping to reveal the inner workings of the alleged criminal enterprise. Their testimonies were crucial in providing context and understanding to the complex web of evidence. But the sprawling, decades-long narrative was hard for the jury to follow, with its numerous characters, intricate timelines, and complex financial transactions. and the sheer volume of allegations risked overwhelming rather than convincing them. The sheer amount of information threatened to bury the key points and obscure the truth. The prosecution hoped the mountain of evidence would be insurmountable, a testament to the defendant's guilt and a barrier to any reasonable doubt, but complexity became their enemy. The intricate web of connections intended to ensnare the defendant instead threatened to unravel the entire case. Despite the evidence, the jury found the case against Combs lacking. The defense attacked witness credibility, highlighting inconsistencies and personal motives. They argued the government failed to prove a coordinated criminal enterprise, instead presenting isolated incidents. Combs was reframed as a tough businessman, not a mob boss. Defense witnesses testified to his business acumen and philanthropy, countering the prosecution's narrative. The high bar of beyond a reasonable doubt proved insurmountable. The defense sowed enough doubt to prevent a conviction. The verdict wasn't a moral exoneration but a legal one. The government simply didn't meet its burden. Legal experts quickly agreed the prosecution may have overreached by charging RICO. The grand narrative was ambitious, but if any part failed, the whole case risked collapse. The defense capitalized, arguing the government was chasing headlines, not justice. Public raids and aggressive tactics made the prosecution look more like a crusade than a legal proceeding. Relying on witnesses with questionable motives further weakened the case. In hindsight, a focused prosecution on the strongest allegations like the assault on video might have been more effective. The government went for a knockout and missed. A series of targeted charges could have landed harder. Ambition, not evidence, became their undoing. Combs won in court, but lost in the public eye. The trial unleashed a flood of damaging stories and images that will forever be linked to his name. His carefully crafted image as a self-made mogul was replaced by one of alleged abuse and manipulation. Brands and partners distanced themselves, deals evaporated, and his music faded from playlists. The acquittal did little to repair the damage. The allegations stuck, making a full comeback unlikely. In the digital age, public memory is permanent. An acquittal can't erase what people have seen and heard. Combs' legacy is now defined by scandal, not success. The jury's verdict changed his legal status but not his reputation. Combs' future is uncertain. He's free, but his world has changed. The Diddy brand is damaged and his businesses may struggle to survive the fallout. Civil lawsuits loom, keeping the allegations alive and threatening further financial loss. A public comeback seems unlikely. He may be forced to retreat from the spotlight. Rebuilding trust will require more than legal victories. Public contrition or change may be necessary. He could fade into the background, managing his wealth quietly. Whatever path he chooses, the scandal will define his legacy far more than his music or business success. The verdict sparked fierce debate about justice in America. Many see it as proof that wealth and power can buy freedom, especially when the evidence seems overwhelming. For survivors and advocates, the acquittal is discouraging, highlighting the difficulty of holding powerful figures accountable. The trial exposed the challenges victims face: scrutiny, attacks on credibility, and the high bar for conviction. Yet others argue the system worked. The government failed to meet its burden, and the presumption of innocence prevailed. The case forces a reckoning between emotional outrage and legal principles. Our justice system isn't designed for moral certainty, but for strict legal standards. The public is left to reconcile a not guilty verdict with a mountain of troubling information. The trial is over, but the story isn't. Combs' acquittal is a legal fact, but his reputation is permanently altered. The government's ambitious RICO case will be studied as a cautionary tale of overreach. The defense's success shows that a mountain of allegations isn't always enough. Combs faces a future defined by scandal, not achievement. The case highlights the gap between legal justice and moral truth, and the power of fame to shape outcomes. The conversation about justice, celebrity, and accountability is just beginning. For Combs, the verdict brought freedom, but not redemption.